Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Thursday morning at 10:37. Pretty gray and overcast day, October 30th, day before Halloween. So best day of the year. Hope everyone's doing really awesome. Um, there's lots of really cool events going on tomorrow night. So lots of cool options. I'm playing with my band. Well, part of a band. I'm part of this band, Space Junk, which is a few years back. I was in a band called Bone Broth, and the band kind of broke up. Unfortunately, a couple of years ago. But really great friends with Ronnie and Halsey, who also play in the band, and we've like done a few shows since that, and we're all like really good friends. And we've also like each of us have our electronic groups, and we've done a lot of shows together with that. And so tomorrow we're playing at Symington Corner in Rockport, and the whole show starts at 7. There's going to be also a DJ there, so it should be really cool. I'm excited for that. There's a bunch of other things going on. A lot of the times on Halloween or Halloween weekend, there's like things going on the weekend before. A lot of the times when Halloween falls during the week, there's actually not a lot of things going on. So it's awesome that there's actually a lot of shit going on the holiday itself, which is great because it's on a Friday. So yeah, I've been away a little bit from being able to do videos. Just had I don't know, kind of a hectic week, so it's been nice. I'm kind of back to a regular schedule. I just did a big video, and it should be up today on going to see my favorite band of all time, and that is Autechre. I saw them on Monday night at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston, and man, oh man, amazing, amazing experience. It was my second time seeing them. I saw them about probably like 7 or 8 years ago now, and that was the last time I think they came to the states, or it was the last time they came to the states. They're from the UK, so they are on this massive tour right now through the states. They started off like late summertime of this year in all throughout Europe, and now they're all in the states. And so yeah, um, the first time I saw them, like I've said, like they're my favorite band of all time. And then my first time seeing them was like I've mentioned it a lot, but that was like I've been fortunate to see lots of great bands over the years and have some amazing concert going experiences. But that one was like the best, and I've always said, I've talked about that a lot, and it's come up with just conversation. And Monday's show was so good, and it was such a different experience that I almost think that might have been the best experience I've ever had. But check it out. It's a pretty long video. I kind of go into detail about a lot of things that happened around it. So it's a long video. There was a lot to talk about. So I'm not usually so candid about my, I guess, personal life, but I get into a little bit more of that. So it might be a little much, but it is what it is. This channel just kind of, at the end of the day, just kind of represents who I am. So, and for what it's worth, uh, it is what it is. So today's show is on a movie. Last weekend I went to Opera House Video, and Opera House Video is the only video shop that's still alive in this crazy day and age, where you can rent physical media and things like that. And I've long history with with Opera House Video. I typically go there usually to buy. I don't. Well, I have bought movies there, obviously, but I go there to rent usually like new releases. So I did go. I think it was Saturday. I went there and I rented some movies, and I saw rented a couple of movies that I had seen before, and then rented a brand new film. But typically, I don't rent any older films there just because I have tons of movies here at my house that I watch, and then the last few years I've gotten to become a a big collector of movies, so I'm always watching those, and I have plenty of things like that to watch. So I typically will, and I typically love older films, of course, most of the time, but I try to really stay up on new stuff that's coming out. So usually when I go there, the focus is just getting like new stuff that's coming out. But this Saturday was the was I guess a little bit of an exception. I got Hereditary. I've rented all. They were all DVDs. I got Ari Aster's Hereditary, which I've seen a bunch of times, and I just love that movie to death. That was the last show I put up. Did a review on that one. I did one. And the other movie I rented, which I'm going to do a show on, is David Cronenberg's Shrouds, which was the newest one. And then today's show is going to be on a movie that I had seen before and I liked, but I wasn't sure if I actually liked the movie. And it came up. Um, there's a YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. It's a lot of YouTube channels that I love. Obviously movie horror channels. And there's a really great channel. I think it's called Cobwebs, and the guy was talking about Lords of Salem, the Rob Zombie film, and he was talking about that being one of his favorite kind of satanic themed horror movies. And I was like, you know what? Wow, I haven't seen that in a super long time. And he really talked this movie up and really raved about it and said how, does consider himself a Rob Zombie fan, but he felt that Lords of Salem was his favorite. And I was like, you know what? I should revisit that because I do remember there were certain things about that movie that I thought were pretty stunning and pretty amazing, especially visually. But I wasn't sure if I was sold on really uh, loving the movie like through and through. So I rented it, and I rented and I watched it the other night. I watched it on Sunday night, and yeah, in all honesty, I really loved it. So today's show is going to be on Lords of Salem. Lords of Salem's been out for quite a while. It came out in 2012, which is crazy. Um, yeah, that's nuts. And of course, it was directed by Rob Zombie. Sherry Moon Zombie, of course, Rob Zombie's wife. She stars in virtually every one of his films. Jeff Daniel Phillips is also in this. Dee Wallace, classic horror icon. She's in my favorite werewolf movie of all time, The Howling. That's the most badass, I think, werewolf movie ever made. Meg Foster, Ken Foree, and Sid Haig, the legendary Sid Haig. So yeah, I mean, I really dug this movie. I really loved it. I would love to buy it on Blu-ray. I rented it on a pretty decent, DVD, pretty decent quality DVD. But this movie is such a stunning visual feast that it really deserves to be seen. I think on Blu-ray. There's some like shots in this movie that are just absolutely amazing. Really, it's hard to believe this came out in 2012. And I do consider myself a fan of Rob Zombie overall. Um, and I've kind of a long history. He's been making movies for a long time. And I mean, I was growing up in high school. There were a couple of White Zombie albums I did really like, especially back in the day, like the first one. There were some great tunes those guys had done, and I remember as a kid really digging the first album, and I used to listen to it all the time. Didn't really stay up on other White Zombie albums that had come out, but those first couple albums, especially the first one, I always dug. And then I remember like he made that transition to become a filmmaker, and House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, um, and then he did the Halloween remakes. And I really love House of a Thousand Corpses. I think that movie is amazing. I think that movie is badass. And I really love The Devil's Rejects. And then there was a third one that's actually pretty good too, like a sequel. But I think House of a Thousand Corpses is awesome. The thing that I loved about those movies is he was like he was a teenager for the most part, and he Rob Zombie moved to New York. And I've seen some interviews with him, and he was in New York during the time, you know, when the Grindhouse cinemas were all happening, 42nd Street. And he kind of lived that life and got to see all of those great sleazy Grindhouse movies at the time. And he talks about like just how crazy it was. And um, I've seen interviews with him. So he was there during that time, and he was really young during that time, but he experienced it. And he really has a big in all of his films, and but especially House of a Thousand Corpses and um, Devil's Rejects, like big time Grindhouse influence in his films. It's really obvious. So that's a natural thing that I really love about his films. They're really gritty, and those movies are pretty gritty and kind of nasty and kind of fucked up. And I think it's even the case with the Halloween movies. The Halloween movies, I don't know, like I didn't like them when they first came out, the remakes, because I'm so hardcore about the first one and what have you. Even though when it comes to the Halloween films, um, the my favorite one overall is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. That's my favorite of the franchise. But I really love the first iconic horror John Carpenter classic, slasher classic from '78. I mean, that's just such an iconic film. So, and it was weird because I remember that movie. What I loved, one of the things I love about Halloween so much is just the atmosphere and the Rob Zombie films. When I first saw them, like his Halloween versions, they were so over the top and so barbarically violent. I thought, like, yeah, I love the copious amounts of violence and even kind of the disturbing nature of what those movies were. But I felt like there wasn't enough restraint, and I felt like it was a little bit too over the top, and I wasn't sold on them. But over the years, it's changed for me. But the one movie I really do like is I love his second one, Halloween 2. I think is really awesome, and I was sold on that movie immediately. I think it's very original. I think he did something really cool. It's a really violent and disturbing film, super dark, and I think he really did. He put his own mark on it. And then since then, over the years, the first one has grown on me, and I do like that movie. I kind of want to see them again. I don't own any of them, but I definitely am looking forward to probably doing that someday and buying them on Blu-ray, because I think visually they're pretty stunning, and especially the second one. So I do like Rob Zombie films. I know he gets beaten up quite a bit. He has like definitely a pretty loyal fan base, but a lot of people, I do see people kind of shit on his films quite a bit and trash his films. Um, and I think it's a little bit unnecessary. And I think people like criticize him for like, oh, well, he just makes these movies so he can put his wife in his own movies and just all this stuff. And I think it's a little bit nitpicky and stupid. But Lords of Salem, I think overall from a technical standpoint, it is, as far as him, I think really coming into his own as a filmmaker, could be or is probably his best film. Like it's really good. The atmosphere and the camera work, the cinematography in Lords of Salem is absolutely stunning. Like there's some sequences that are just enthralling. Like, and it's super gross and vile and and disgusting, And I think you definitely see his grindhouse influence in this movie big time. You definitely see it, and I think it's great. Like the imagery, the story's really good, and I love the ending to this movie. The cast is great. Yeah, I think it's one of his best movies. I think it's a stunning, stunning film, and it could be his best film. I mean, I kind of lean a little bit more towards the overall, the overall movie just being probably his best work, but kind of always lean towards House of a Thousand Corpses. But I don't know. It's for me, it's close. It's a close second. I think definitely House of a Thousand Corpses, if I had to say, might would probably be my favorite zombie Rob Zombie film. But I think Lords of Salem is right up there. It's a close tie, maybe first second place. But again, I had only seen this movie once when it came out many years ago, quite a few years ago, and I haven't seen any of Rob Zombie's films in the theater. I rented this, I think, when it came out many years ago, and I think that was the only time. And I remember hearing mostly negative things about this film. He gets kind of berated a lot with by critics and fans. Like obviously, he's got a rabid fan base, and he's got this little cool little niche. Carrying over from his fans from, of course, his music, and he's gone on to do like lots of solo projects too. Rob Zombie the solo thing, which is kind of almost the same thing as White Zombie. But I mean, and then he's done all kinds of tours and putting together his own festivals, all these kinds of things. So he's a really creative guy that way, and he's been around for a very long time. But I do see him get panned or pegged by the critics a lot. And I remember when Lords of Salem came out, I don't think that movie was very successful. I think it might have been, you know, kind of a dud. He's had some big time commercial successes. The movies I mentioned before, I do believe they all were commercially like huge. But I don't, and from what I recall, I don't think Lords of Salem really was a successful film in the box office. And I think a lot of critics really dumped on it pretty badly. But I think, it's one of those movies that have kind of, it's been out for since 2012, and I think over the years people have kind of revisited the movie and realized that there's like some really serious stuff going on with this. You really do see, I mean, even I think for people who don't think it's like a good movie per se, or really, well, or maybe they don't think, they think it's a flawed movie. I do say that even for people who have that opinion, I think it's, you kind of have to look at it from like the perspective of, from a technical standpoint, it's such a well made movie. I think from a director standpoint, it's probably the best movie he's ever done. Like it's kind of stunning. So, and I think that deserves props. I think that is like, is so obvious with this movie. But the actual movie itself, I think, I this was my second time watching it. I was curious about what it would be like to see it again and to see it now. And I have to say, I mean, I think it's beautifully shot. I think the cinematography is absolutely incredible. The scenes are, some of these sequences are just stunning. The costumes, the masks, and it's essentially about this group of witches that are conjuring up Satan or Lucifer, the great beast, and there are all of these amazing sequences that are just, I mean, it's like an acid trip, very, very visual. But I actually think outside of the stunning visuals, I think the movie itself is actually really good. I think there's a lot of cool, funny humor. The story's pretty good. The cast is good. The acting is good, is solid. The music's really good, really good. So yeah, I actually enjoyed the film itself, and really cool. Really, I was pleasantly surprised. Um, and again, this was only my second time watching it. Perfect movie for spooky season, Halloween season. So I highly recommend it. I would love to see this on Blu-ray. So I probably would buy it. I do have the Devil's House of a Thousand Corpses. I have a House of a Thousand Corpses, and I have the Devil's Rejects. I have both of those on Blu-ray, which are super badass. I got a combo pack with those. I got both of them on Blu-ray, but they're really, really great. It's a really fantastic quality. Um, but I don't own any of his other films. I don't think on Blu-ray. I think I might own a few DVDs of his, but I would definitely buy Lords of Salem on Blu-ray. It's really amazing, especially visually. It would be stunning. So yeah, thanks again. And tomorrow, which is Halloween, I will be doing my big Halloween special show, and really excited about doing that and making sure I get it uploaded tomorrow, because I like to have it on the day itself. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.